Divinity Original Sin 2 is a massively deep game. It's an incredible chasm of creativity and fantasy that few games can rival. I recently just began exploring the world of Revelin and was blown away by the finesse and detail the developers employed. And even though that the game has been out for over a year, I immediately wanted to begin creating content. And given that the developers announced that there's going to be a lot of free DLC this year, it seems like now is a good time to jump in. This series will focus on my first main playthrough, which will be a blind run. I don't know much about the history or lore involved in the Divinity games, but I hope to pick up on as much as I can. I will absolutely be making mistakes or decisions that someone familiar with the game would not make. I am a beginner, so anything you see, point it out in the comments. Divinity gives you the option of choosing either a character with a set origin and background or a completely custom character. For this run, we'll choose a custom male elf and name him Elidor. We don't know much about Elidor. He comes from a hazy and often misremembered origin. We know that his mother was named Eleanor, totally common elf name, and that his father was named Doran, clearly another elf name. An important aspect to consider in not only your experience playing an RPG, but also crafting your own character's lore, is what their build will be. Now, I absolutely adore the process of character builds, from the early stages all the way till the completed masterwork, and boy does Divinity give you options. Now, Elidor, being an elf and having spent a major part of his life patrolling the deep forest of his homeland, naturally has the skills of an experienced ranger. That's where we'll start with the build preset. Rangers rely on archery and dealing critical damage from a distance. They are nimble and crafty with a trick up both sleeves. These skills alone will make Elidor a dangerous foe, however those skills are not enough. For in Elidor's past, he lost something dear to him, lost in a moment of terror and helplessness. He was powerless to stop it. Thus, in his darkness of loss, he turned to necromancy to avenge and also to protect. However, necromancy came at a cost. It took part of his memory, some of the most important parts. And through his upcoming journey, he hopes to regain some of that. That loss, that pain will be revealed. This is a rough outline for Elidor, the Dark Ranger, and it will help us define his combat abilities and overall build going forward. We have 3 attribute points to dole out. 2 will go to finesse, which strengthens our damage with bows, and we'll put 1 point into intelligence, which does the same but with magic. These 2 attributes are going to be very important to us going forward, and we're going to be spending a lot of our points on these 2 fields. The combat ability points are easy, 1 point in Huntsman and 1 point in Necromancy. That will allow us to choose from both Huntsman skills and Necromancy skills to start with. For our first loadout, we'll choose Elemental Arrowheads, Pin Down, and Mosquito Swarm. Elemental Arrowheads will give us a lot of damage output options. Pin Down will help us prevent enemies from getting too close to us, and Mosquito Swarm will inflict bleeding damage on enemies as well as sap health from them, giving it back to us. And finally, for our talent point, Torturer is fantastic for this build considering we will be inflicting lots of bleed status effects with Mosquito Swarm. And with that complete, I want to take a second to credit Fextralife with helping me lay the foundation for this build. They have a fantastic resource for new and old players. From this point on, all of Elidor's level up decisions will be made by me. Now let's begin this journey.
A single drop of source magic. And like flies to honey, the monsters swarmed.
Now, many of you have probably already played Divinity Original Sin 2, or at least have a background in the Divinity series. So I'm not going to get too heavily into the story, but we'll cover some of the basics. When you begin the game, you find yourself on a ship. You're strapped to a table and you have a heavy collar around your neck. This is how all journeys begin in Divinity Original Sin 2, including Elidor's. Elidor is a sorcerer in a land where sorcerers are hunted. You see, sorcerers have a connection to a magical force called the Source. It imbues them and allows them to unleash devastating power. The use of Source throughout the world of Revelin attracts creatures called Voidwoken. They can appear anywhere where Source is used. Thus, the Magisters of the world have taken it upon themselves to capture anyone who has abilities of the Source. So our early goal on this ship is to escape. Coming across an unshackled sorcerer and witnessing the power of a Source Blast threatens to bring the ship down and everyone on it. We find some Voidwoken on the deck of the ship, and it's a good chance to try out some of Elidor's skills. But before we can make an escape, a Voidwoken Kraken rises from the deep and destroys the ship. As Elidor sinks into the depths, a voice speaks out. Not only does this mysterious entity save us from the certain demise, but also reveals the truth about Elidor. He is a Godwoken, and we'll find out more about that later. Waking up on the shore of a yet unknown island, we head towards the sound of civilization. Battling some Voidwoken on the beach, we grow to level 2. So 1 point to finesse, 1 to intelligence, 1 ability point is spent on the ranged weapon category, and 1 point in thievery in case we need to go pilfering. The rocky beach path eventually leads us to Fort Joy. While witnessing a horrific execution, we learn that the fort is run by the Divine Order, the Magisters who hunt and capture sorcerers. Their ultimate goal is to turn them into tools. Lifeless tools for their own use. Fort Joy is a large hub and acts as a major building block for your journey through Revelin. Not only does it help lay the groundwork for all the major mechanics in the game, but it also is where you will make some of your most important decisions. The biggest of those decisions being who will join you on your journey, if any. Divinity allows you to play the game with a party of up to 4 characters. So you could choose to travel with just 1 or 2 or none at all. And all of the possible party members are found in and around Fort Joy. They are the characters of origin that you can choose to play as in the beginning of the game. The first companion we pick up is Ifan. Through conversation, we can direct him to be a certain build before he joins us. Ifan is naturally a ranger, however since Elidor already has that covered, he will be our knight, a 2-handed weapon-wielding badass that will be the first to charge into battle, distracting enemies and dealing heavy physical damage. The number 1 goal of this early stage of the game is to escape the fort and learn about your new Godwoken title. Fort Joy's inhabitants offer us a few different ways to go about this. We meet a captured sorcerer named Gawain, asks us to retrieve his gloves of teleportation, promising a way out. We may have to take him up on that later. Outside the fort we meet Fane, an undead eternal who will be our conjurer. Conjurers summon creatures to fight their battles for them, while they remain on the sidelines, casting spells and shooting magical projectiles from their wands. Our final companion is Loshe, a great choice for a battle mage. She'll be capable of dealing both magical and physical damage. And again, I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of some of these. If I'm saying them wrong, spell it out for me in the comments. While exploring Fort Joy and gathering our companions, we completed a few easy quests around the fort. Nothing imperative to the story, just side stuff. And realizing that those gloves of teleportation would be great for our own use, let's check out that spot Gawain told us to clear. And of course, there is a trio of giant crocodiles, one of which has eaten the teleportation gloves. It's a long battle, but we prevail with no casualties. Fane will be our keeper of the teleportation gloves for now. The teleportation gloves will allow us to be more effective in and out of battle, so we will not be returning those to Gawain. Instead, we head towards a cave located on the opposite end of the beach. This cave should lead us out of the fort, but it just so happens to be filled with fire slugs. Before the battle, it's time for a quick level up. Now that we have 4 characters, there is a lot to do, but since this is focused on our main character, Elidor, we will only go over those stat changes in detail. We grab the Elemental Ranger talent, add an ability point to Huntsman. We add 1 point of finesse and 1 to wits, which ups our critical hit chance. This Fire Slug battle turned out to be a bit more tough than I expected. The general strategy in this battle and in all future battles is to keep Fane and Elidor to the outside so that they can shoot projectiles effectively. However, the Fire Slugs can cover a ton of ground each turn, and this leaves us little room for projectile strategy. The cave area is also slightly claustrophobic and full of obstructing rocks, so it's hard to get a good angle to shoot. Another issue that arose with this battle is that none of our characters have effective healing at this point or ways to put out spreading flames. You will notice that elements play an important part in every battle. Whether it is flames on the ground, or oil, or water, our characters will need a way to either get out of it, around it, or combat it. So we're going to need to mend this going forward. I'm open to any suggestions, so let me know in the comments. This battle really tested me at my current level, and it resulted in a couple resets and many deaths. I thought they wouldn't see me in this bedroll, but I was wrong. So wrong. The strategy emerged of separating the slugs out and dealing with them one by one. The combination of Ephon's crowd control and Elidor's archery eventually powers us through. Unfortunately, as luck would have it, the fire slug infested cave only leads us to the dungeons of Fort Joy. I want to thank you for tuning into this first episode, and I'm really interested to hear what you think. If you're a veteran of the Divinity series, if you're a new player, I would love to hear your thoughts and maybe what we can improve on. On the next episode, we're going to find out what exactly is beyond the walls of Fort Joy.